All right, I am back. Um, Left off this morning with some logic of just making sure I could retrieve and evaluate the transactions um, that exist in our own private mempool that didn't ever get broadcasted to the network mempool. So now I need to change some things up here a little bit. So this audit broadcast process is looking for, so there is some window of time where it is valid for transactions to exist in our system with this negative score. So for instance, if I tried to clean up the data at the same instant that or within a second of when we start processing a transaction that's been broadcasted, well, I don't want to clean that one up yet. That one's actually in process. So let me go back up here. So when we first broadcast a transaction, we are building its height score here with Unix timestamp as the block height and 0 as the block index. So if I want to be cleaning up transactions that are, say, 2 minutes old, we'll use that for a, so we'll call this score. So I'm going to go time.now. I'm going to wrap this in parentheses and say minus 2 times time dot minute. Do I have to? I'm not actually. Okay. Well, let's try this differently. Now equals now dot no. Oh, now dot add. There we go. Minus 2 times time dot minute. Okay. All right, I still want a Unix timestamp of it. That is my score. I also want this whole thing to be negative. So let's say from, oops. So let's say minus 1 times, oops. Now we're going to say from so I got to make sure I got my logic right here. Yes, I think we're good here. So let's actually try to run this again. And let's go back to Postman. Okay, that transaction still comes through. So what if I set it to, let's say node, let's say date dot now, oops, time dot date, there it is. Okay. So if I set the timestamp in the database to, actually first I should copy, sorry, this is off screen again. Copy this. So I'm just setting this transaction as if it came in right now. Oh, that didn't work. My copy paste is not working. Okay, that works. Cut. For some reason, I'm not able to save this in the database. What's going on here? Sure, this is extra fun for those watching since you can't actually even see what I'm doing. All right. Update. Wish I could get my client names out of my... Really, the only issue here is I've got database connections that are named for my clients, and I don't want them to leak into this stream. So it's really just I'm working with SQL tables to update a value, but if I share my SQL screen, you'll see the name of the database, which will give away my clients, and I don't want to do that to them. All right, update. Logs set score equals that where search key equals tx and member equals this. So first I'm going to do I should stop narrating and just get it done, because okay. All right. I've got what I need. Let me get another more current timestamp since I've only got a 2-minute window here. Actually, I'm just going to make this a 1-hour window. Heck, I'll even make it a 2-hour window. All right. So as far as the system knows, this transaction was left in this state just now. So it should no longer come back from this search. Oh, it helps if I actually start my server. Okay, it did not. Now let me put the timestamp back to what it was originally. And it should come back again. Boop, there it is. All right. So what do we do now? So our first step is to reach out to our I guess it'd be our miner partners, or reach out on API and ask the miner, do you actually have this transaction? So in order to do that, you can go to my Jungle Bus client here. So right now, there is a concept that says, every time I go to load a raw transaction, it is first going to check my local cache and try and retrieve it from there. Well, I don't actually care if it was cached or not. I don't want it from a cache, even if it is. I want to go out to the server. Oh, actually, never mind. Forget that part. What I really want to do is load the proof. So for each of these transactions, so let's go proof jb.load proof. So this would be the same thing as calling arc or whatever else, wherever else you're getting your transaction proofs from, to find out, hey, does this proof actually exist? So if it doesn't, what's going to happen here? I think I'm going to call this, and proof is just going to come back as nil. So if I hit that endpoint, don't worry about that. There's some logic in here that deduplicates multiple transactions of multiple requests for the exact same request going up to the server at the same time. We don't really need to worry about the complexity of that. Okay, if length of proof is greater than 0. Okay, so literally I'm just going to go well, in this case, we're doing audit. So in the case where error is not equal to nil, we're going to log so what does that mean? Okay, actually, there are two different parts here I need to do here. And so the proof is what's going to tell me, was this ever mined in a block? That doesn't actually tell me, does my server even know about this transaction? So what I think I want to do here is actually, in my load raw tx method, I think I'm going to break that into two pieces. I'm going to say func load remote raw tx. Actually, just gonna copy this whole thing. And really all we're going to do is we're going to skip all this stuff. And then this is going to be raw tx error load. Yep. And what happens if I get an error here? Nothing. I just move on to the next step. Okay. Okay. So now I can just call directly I don't need that check here. Okay, so first what I want to do is basically say if raw tx error if length of raw tx equals 0. So this is saying I have successfully hit my remote server. It did not produce any errors, but I got back an empty array. So I don't actually have the raw transaction data. So in this case, this is going to be our clean up transaction. Otherwise, I can kind of loop this all together. So if the transaction has been broadcasted, then I'm in the case of needing to get the proof. I need, oh, interesting. My do not disturb's on, but my Discord's still be duping. Anyways. Okay, so I have the proof. Okay, so these are kind of different scenarios here. So either the server doesn't know about it at all, in which case we're going to have to figure out what our plan of attack is. So we could just clean it up and pretend like it never happened. We could try to broadcast it again and then just reset this process, but it also could have some errors on it. And that could cause a problem. So we're going to leave what we do in this case alone for a minute and handle the success states. So if, let's see here. Well, first of all, yeah. So let's look really at this scenario first. So if the proof is not null, so I'm going to say, actually, I'm going to create a transaction object. New Merkle path from binary. There we go. That is going to be proof. Okay. So I've got everything I need. So I'm going to load up an actual transaction object. I'm going to load up the proof. And then, do I have an ingester in this point? No, I don't. Okay. Well, oh, apparently proof already comes back as a Merkle path, not as binary. So I don't actually need to do this step. I need to say tx.merklepath equals proof. Okay. So basically, once I know that I've got a valid proof and everything, actually, I should probably do one more step here. tx.merklepath.verify, and I need to pass in my tx ID, and I need, oh, that's chain hash dot hash. So tx.txid and chain tracker. So I have a chain tracker that is It is block dot headers client. Okay, what do we got here? Something is I need to create an instance of it. Oh, maybe not. Can I use okay. I need to update my chain tracker here. Where was that? Headers client. This needs to return an error as well. Oops. All right, that was easy. Okay. So this is going to return if valid error So if this valid is false, that means I have a Merkle path for this transaction, and I'm trying to verify it, but it does not match my current set of block headers. So essentially what that means is this Merkle path is out of date, for the chain is reorged, whatever. Well, pretty much there's no whatever. That's exactly what that means. If I have a Merkle path that was valid at one time in the past, but is not valid now, chain reorg, we're going to need to retrieve updated proof. Else, everything's valid. I need to ingest this transaction again. Okay. So now the question really comes, where should this logic actually be? Right now, I've got it just in my broadcast package here, but I need access to the whole ingestion process, which is an entirely different process. So ingesting is all about, I've got this transaction, let me make sense of it, let me get it into the system. Where broadcasting is just about, here's this transaction which has, oh, wait a second. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't have anything in here tied into the ingestion process. So there's an ingest object, which is where all that stuff is. And I could certainly just pass it in. And maybe for right now, that's not the worst idea. idx.ingest context. Okay. That works. So now let's say else if dot ingest tx. I'll get back to the ancestor config in a second. Okay. Yeah, this is definitely going to need to go to a different place. But in fact, I think I started working on block sync ingest tx verify. Yes. Okay. So we're going to get this out of the broadcast mechanism. and have this be just a standalone executable. So in order to do that, let's look at server as a reference here. What do I need to do here? I need to server.ingest initialize. Where is my let's say ingest. Actually, before I do that, let me see where else I'm creating ingest contexts. Lots of places. Those are all being passed in. Where's my command? Right there. Okay, let's copy this. Okay, so actually, this is going to be driven off of my config. I'll get back to that. I don't think I'm going to need that. So there's also an ingest command. This is actually where I probably want to get this from. So in this case, key. Okay. What am I doing with that? No. Key. Search members. Okay, so this is all about ingesting. That has nothing to do with what I'm doing here. I don't think I need any of that. I think, sorry, this is again one of those cases of you're not in the code for a couple weeks and you forget how it works. So I need my indexers, I need my network. Concurrency stuff is going to be completely external. Verbose, yeah, whatever, I'll set it on for now. Let me take this whole thing right here. Oh, does my ingest have a store? If it doesn't, it needs one. It doesn't. I mean, it does. So we want to go store is config.store. All right. So let's just put this whole function right here. Actually, you know what? This makes sense to be part of the ingest library. Func CFG ingest context. Yeah, this makes sense. I don't need my store here. I don't need my ingest. I'm already in the IDX package, so I need to get rid of all of those. This is going to be cfg.store. And I don't actually care what the context is. Okay. It's funny when I'm developing normally, I can dig deep in things or I can work on things for a while and then step away and do something else. These streams, when my brain hits a dead end and I kind of want to relax, I feel like, or kind of want to think on something, it makes me feel like I need to solve it right now. Okay. So this case where the transaction has been mined, it has a valid Merkle path, we ingest it, that is now all fine. Now, process where we don't have a proof, that just means it hasn't been mined yet, but it does mean that I need to, okay, we're checking with the remote server. The remote server, if it doesn't have the transaction, I got to do something here. If it does have the transaction, I need to make it so it is not a negative score, but it's a positive score. We have this transaction. It's still in the mempool, but the server, the miner has received this transaction, and it knows about it. It's working on mining it. I don't need to keep it in my own internal mempool. So for here, I need to say if, actually, I think it's just here, cfg.store.log btx, and I want to get it from the exact same key that and the ID is txid, and the score is, I need to, I didn't get its old score out of it. Well, that's okay. I think I'm just going to actually set, I don't, score 1 minus. I think I'm actually just going to set it a new score right now. So we're going to take this exact same thing here that we've used everywhere else. Actually, if I just call height score without any, is it without parameters? I could swear I made some changes. That must have been in a different branch. Where if you didn't, oh well, that's fine. Let me just go back over here. All right, so I'm just setting it a new, so basically saying not being negative, here's a new timestamp score for right now. And I don't even actually need to create a variable for this. Keep our lines short. Okay. So there we go. If we don't have a proof, but it does exist on the remote server, we're updating it. So this broadcast audit is not going to catch it next time. Actually, all right. Now that I'm thinking about this through more, I think I'm trying to do too much with this method. I'm going to go back to my broadcast here. Okay, it's still here. All the audit broadcasts really needs to worry about is this first set of checks right here. This is going to be a different process over here where we're actually processing the fact that transactions have been mined and updating all their state to reflect that. That's kind of out of scope of what I'm trying to do here. What I'm really trying to do here is just worry about this state right here. Do I know what a transaction is? And which means, let me take this logic. Should be mostly all the same. Okay, I don't need anything to do with proofs. Wait a second. I don't even care about the proof. All right. If I don't know about the transaction, I need to clean it up. Otherwise, I do know about the transaction. Okay, otherwise I do know about the transaction and I'm updating its score. All right, and actually for the flow of this, I am going to make one massive long line here. Okay, so that's really all I need to do here. So what should happen for this transaction? I'll get back to you. Oops. Leave that file as it was where we got here. Okay, so all I really should have here now is when I hit this transaction, let me still return these. Uh-oh. What did I, oh, yeah, we'll come back to this. Broke something else. I do not need ingest anymore because that's part of that other process. Okay. So I can still hit it. It's still going to return it to me. So the question I need to do now here is, what do I want to do with this cleanup? So at this point, I think I'm just going to say, pretend this transaction never existed. So if our server has ingested a transaction, it never got broadcasted, it never got found by or never, the remote that we're communicating with doesn't know anything about it. For right now, I'm just going to say, let's pretend this doesn't exist. So in order to do that, it's really, can I just do rollback spends? What is this out points do on rollback spends? Let's find out. Spend out points up to the in. Okay. So it's saying because this is updating status as it's looping through a transaction. So if I try to set a new or an output as having been spent, but it was already spent. Well, when I'm calling rollback, I'm telling rollback with a array of what inputs have been processed so far in this path. So it might be that I'm only on input 1, but input 5 would have also been a double spend from here. But I'm not trying to roll back input 5 because I haven't made any changes to input 5 yet. But in this case, I already have all the transactions. So actually, we might need to do this a little bit different. So I'm loading it from a remote, but in order to know how to roll it back, let me think about this for a second. I need to know which input or which out points were spent in this transaction. Which means I either need to look up the data from the database and say what inputs were spent in this transaction, which in SQL, I have a way to do that. I just have to search TXOs by the spend table. But do I have a way to do that in Redis? Let's see here. I believe I have, well, let's actually go TXOs, Redis. Save spend. Spends key. Spends. Okay, so this spends lists every out point and tells me which transaction it was spent in. But I do not have the ability to query the other way around. Which in reality, I don't need to query the other way around. I just need to be able to load up the transaction again. So I think what we're going to do in here is actually do the same thing again, but get it from the cache. Because I need to have this transaction. This is just going to be load tx with proof. At this point, I don't need the proof at all. Okay. Actually, and load tx is going to return me a fully populated transaction. So I think I literally just want to go out points equals. Yep. Let me just get how I build this up above here. Okay. And then I think okay, we're going to step through this and make sure it's all making sense. Let's put a breakpoint right there. Server run. Oops. Oh, I didn't have the breakpoint. Did I? I bet you my record's gone. Nope, it's still there. You not want to run that this way. We want to run that this way. Oh, I think it was still running, and so we didn't get the other logic yet. Let's see what happens here. Boom. Okay. I don't care about that logic right now. Okay. So what do we have for out points here? This should be an array of the two inputs. Okay, it is. So I'm keeping track of, okay, so I'm checking to see where were those endpoints marked as spent. And those are both in this transaction. So that's good. If spend equals txid, then I append it to what I am deleting. That won't do that as well. And then if ling deletes, okay, so if there are more than one, I want to unset spends. So let's see what unset spends does. PG store TXOs in PG store. Oops. Unset spends. Okay. So that's actually going to work. Now, before I finish this, though, I just stop. There's one other piece that we actually need to clean up. And that is you know what? Let me see. Okay, I don't even have Postgres on this computer. Try and put the connection string in on another screen. I don't think it's that big of a deal if people see it, but I have not gotten verification yet. Ooh, that doesn't work. You know what? Let me just try and rename some things quick. This is going to be a lot more sensible. Can I just rename? Let's see here. I'm going to close this, disconnect from the server. What am I trying to do here? Postgres rename database. Alter database. Rename to current database cannot be renamed. All right, so I have to do it from another database on the same. Okay, so let's close that. This is great fun. Let's do it from here. Oh, I bet you. Okay, it is currently being accessed by other clients. That just means that I need to make sure I've got everything closed. Could be hitting it. That stopped that. I don't have any clients hitting it. This is great entertainment for all, I realize. So can I state, can I disconnect these folks? Actually, I want disconnect from database. One other session. I bet you it is my other computer. Let's see here. Disconnect from database. Let's see if that works. Yay! Okay. So let's refresh this. Let's baby doo doo. Oops. Wrong thing. Okay. Let's bring this back over here. Let's bring this back over here. Okay. So the issue is how the whole system handles search records through this logs functionality. So here's that minus number I've been playing around with right here. This is really only about tracking a transaction itself. Now, in reality, in the scenario we're trying to work with, none of these records would have actually been saved to the system yet because the transaction wouldn't have actually gotten broadcasted. So actually, as I think about this, my concern was, how do I clean up all of these? But the fact of the matter is, those would never exist in the first place. So I can really just do, well, let me just run through the process as we have it implemented here and make sure it works for the other records, and then we'll come back around to, I'm just going to do it this way. All right, so if this process works, this transaction right here should be gone. Also, So our TXOs table spend. These are the two UTXOs that are marked as having been spent by our transaction here, 78AB. So when this process is done, these should be reset to being marked as not spent. Similarly, these, which are the UTXOs that were created from this transaction, will be deleted. And I actually want this one. And all of these records should be left with the exception of this one right here. So let's try it out. Boop. It still returned me something, but that doesn't mean anything. So do I still have... Okay, that log is still there. Okay, I'm guessing this didn't actually do anything. So let's go back to our debugging. Post again. Out points. I have two of them. Okay. Oh, okay. So I'm actually only doing part of this here. So all this is really doing, go back to my database. So this part right here, yes, okay. So the two TXOs that this transaction did mark as spent have been cleaned up. That part worked. This part of actually deleting the UTXOs didn't happen. But, oh, that's also, okay. That's also another case where these would not have actually been persisted yet. Okay, so let me clarify some things here as I'm figuring this out myself. This broadcast method doesn't handle anything at all about indexing new out points that exist. That is all handled through this ingest process that's external from it. All broadcast does to update data is it sets, it logs the transaction with a negative score. It sets the inputs of that transaction as spent, and then it updates that negative score to a positive score once it's been broadcasted. So really, these other records aren't actually part of the same cleanup process at all. But with the exception of when my rollback is completed, so the last step I need to do here is delog the transaction. There's no. So let's try to hit this again. Okay, I hit the delog. This should now be gone from our logs. And it is. The TX record is gone. Okay, so now I'm just going to delete all the other remnants that never would have existed in the system if I would have done this. That's already done. And that's already done. Oops. That didn't do anything. Delete from logs. Member. Okay, it's the same. So also delete from EXOs. Okay. So now all remnants of this transaction should be gone. Boom. Boom. Okay. I'm going to need to come back later and complete this part in ingest of actually finalizing the transactions, but we have now got the broadcast auditing, at least so it will roll back transactions that have never been broadcasted. Which means we're doing that. Okay. So I guess that's it for this one. And I'll probably be back with another small thing if I've got something that comes to mind. So for now, ta-ta.